Today we'll be making the double dagger bracelet. To make the double dagger bracelet, you're going to cut a comfortable length of fire line and you're going to place a needle on both ends. Pick up an 11-0 seed bead, an 8-0 seed bead, and an 11-0 seed bead. You're going to place these in the center of your thread. And to make this bracelet, we use two colors of daggers. This is color A, and this is color B. So now you'll need to pick up a color A with one needle and do the same with your other needle. You'll bring those down. And then you'll pick up an 8-0 seed bead with one needle. Then with your other needle, you're going to sew through that same 8-0 seed bead, going in the opposite direction. Now you're ready to sew through the same bottom holes as you did earlier with each needle. And you'll do the same on the other side. Sew through that bottom hole. Now with both needles, you're going to pick up two 11-0 seed beads, and you'll sew through the second hole of that dagger on each side. Now you're ready to pick up a color B dagger with each needle, going through that first hole. Now with one needle you'll sew through the first hole, going the opposite direction. And you'll do the same with your other needle. Sew through the first hole of the color B dagger, going in the opposite direction. Then you'll take your needles and you're going to go through the second hole of the color B daggers. Now you're ready to pick up a brick with one needle, and you'll sew through that bottom hole. Then you'll take your second needle and you'll sew through that bottom hole of that same brick, going in the opposite direction. And you're going to pull your thread so it's nice and tight. Then you're going to take each needle and you're going to sew through the top of the brick, the top hole. And you'll do the same with your other needle. You'll go through the top hole, but you're going in the opposite direction from the first needle. And now you're ready to pick up two 11-0 seed beads, one with one needle, one with the other needle. Bring those down. And now you'll pick up a color A dagger with each needle. You'll sew through that bottom hole. And you'll do the same with the other needle. Sew through that bottom hole. Now with one needle you'll pick up an 8-0 seed bead. You'll sew through that. Then with your other needle going in the opposite direction, you're going to sew through the same 8-0 seed bead. Now you're ready to sew through the bottom hole of that color A dagger. You'll do the same with your other needle. Sew through the bottom hole of the color A dagger. And pull your thread a little bit so it tightens up. Then you'll pick up two 11-0 seed beads with each needle. Bring those down. And now you're ready to sew through the second hole of that color A dagger with each needle. Now we're ready to pick up the color B dagger, and we're going to sew through the bottom hole with each needle. And then with each needle, you'll go through the bottom hole of the other dagger going in the opposite direction. And then you'll pull your thread. Now you're ready to go through the second hole of the color B dagger with each needle. And now you're ready to pick up your brick. You'll sew through the bottom hole, going one direction with one needle. Then you'll sew through that same bottom hole with your other needle going in the opposite direction. And you'll pull your thread. Now you'll go through the second hole with one needle. And you'll take your other needle, you'll go through that same hole, the top hole of the brick, going in the opposite direction. Now I'll show you the pattern again. You're going to pick up an 11-0 with each needle. Bring those down to the brick. Then you're going to pick up a color A dagger with each needle. You'll sew through the bottom hole. And you're going to do the same on the other side. Now with one needle, you'll pick up an 8-0 seed bead, sew through it. Then with your other needle going in the opposite direction, you'll sew through that same 8-0 seed bead. And you'll pull your thread. Now with one needle, you'll go back through the color A dagger, that first hole. Then with your other needle, you'll go through the other side. And now you're ready to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads with each needle. Bring those down. You'll be going through the second hole of the color A dagger with each needle. You'll do the same with the other needle. Go through the second hole. And then you're going to pick up the color B daggers with each needle, going through the bottom hole. And you'll do the same with the other needle. Now with each needle, you'll go through the other color B daggers going in the opposite direction. That bottom first hole. And you'll pull your thread. Now you'll go through the second hole of the color B dagger with each needle. And you'll do the same on the other side. And now you're ready to pick up your brick. You'll sew through the bottom hole of your brick with one needle going in one direction. Then you'll sew through that same brick, same hole, going in the opposite direction with the other needle. And you'll pull your threads. And now you'll sew through the top hole of the brick with one needle going in one direction. And you'll do the same with the other needle. Sew through that top hole, but you'll be going through the other direction. And you'll pull your thread nice and tight. Now you're just going to keep repeating this pattern until you get your desired length. Now that you've reached your desired length, you're going to add your clasp, and you'll pick up an 11-0 seed bead, and we'll be using just one thread to add on our clasp. And you'll go through the loop on the clasp and then back through the seed bead. Then through the brick. And then you'll pick up an 11-0 seed bead. You'll go through the other loop on your clasp. and you'll tighten it up. Then you'll come back through your 11-0 and back through your brick. Now you'll need to reinforce this 3 more times to make sure it's nice and secure. And then with one of your needles, you're going to sew back through your thread path so that you can add on your clasp on the other end. And you'll just follow the same thread path all the way back through your bracelet. And you'll feed through your daggers and seed beads. And you'll just continue to follow the thread path down through the bracelet. With your other thread, we're going to feed it through and we're going to tie a double knot because you no longer need 2 threads. And I'm just going to go underneath the thread and make a loop. And I'm going to do that one more time so it's nice and secure. And then I'm going to feed it a little ways further down. And then if you like, you could put in a half hitch, 1 knot, if you want to make it feel more secure. And just go under the thread, make a loop, go through your loop, and then you'll feed through your beads to get away from your knot so that you'll be able to cut off your thread. And then you can cut off this excess thread right here. Now that you've reinforced your bracelet by sewing back down through the thread path, you're ready to add on the other end of your clasp. And I came out between the seed bead next to the 8 and the seed bead next to the other seed bead. So I came out of that first hole of that first dagger. And you're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead. Then you're going to go through the loop on your clasp, then you'll sew back through the seed bead you just picked up, and now you're ready to go to the other side. So you'll sew through your seed bead, your 8-0, and a seed bead. That's where you need to come out. And now you're ready to pick up an 11-0 seed bead. And you'll sew through the loop on your clasp. And now you're ready to sew through the 11-0 that you just picked up. And you'll pull your thread and tighten everything up. And then of course you're going to want to reinforce several times by sewing through your beads and your clasp. You just keep going from one side to the other. And once you've reinforced several times, you're going to feed your thread through your beads down a little ways before you put in your double knot. And it doesn't have to be any specific way, it's just whatever way you want to go so it doesn't show your thread. And then you'll need to put in your double knot. And I like to sew down through my bracelet and then back up and through the loop, and that's a half hitch, and I like to do that 2 times so it's nice and secure. So down through the bracelet, then back up through, going through the loop. So I've got 2 double knots, and then I'm going to sew back up through the bracelet some more to get away from my knot. And like I said, it doesn't matter which way you go, just as long as your thread isn't showing.